we're getting, I mean, on some level, I could see a parallel. Maybe I just see it everywhere with this, this whole thing with like the outrage that 106 Republican lawmakers have signed on to this Ken Paxton lawsuit coming from the Texas AG. Incidentally,
Texas suing the other states rights Republicans all the way.
And let's be clear. I think everyone knows that on some level, this is Ken Paxton a little bit worried about the federal investigation that's been ongoing that actually crescendoed yesterday when they had they basically subpoenaed his records. But he could be looking for a pardon. But this idea that like people are just like, can you believe democracy is being attacked by these 106 Republican House members? I mean, I think it's a good thing to say, but it's also sort of like, when are we going to accept that the Republican Party is the Republican Party?
Yeah.
And why do we need the Lincoln Project to come out and tell us how upset they are about this thing that they created?
Right. I mean, that's been the tension a lot recently, is like to be like, and I think, for those of us who have been observing the extremism of the American conservatism for a while, you do have to regularly be like, I'm not at all surprised that all of these elected Republican officials are like trying to overturn the election. I'm not surprised, but I still acknowledge that it's very bad for democracy, and it's like it's like honestly kind of a hard line, because I don't want to be the cynic who's like, oh, you're surprised that they're anti-democratic, because like it should be upsetting and it should be shocking.
Well, it's not even a question about like, oh, I can't believe you're not surprised. It should be like, okay, here is evidence number 5,633. How about now you accept the fact that this party is, and this ties in, let's take a quick break because I want to talk about the audio that came out from Joe Biden this week.
Oh, yeah.
And because it seems to me all part and parcel of this same theme. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back in a second. So audio was leaked this week, and I always get curious as to like how audio leaks. Was this on purpose or was it not on purpose? I mean, who knows, right? But it was a Zoom call with civil rights leaders and Joe Biden, and Joe Biden sort of waded into and wanted to sort of like both say that Democrats were killed by the defund the police thing. There's plenty of data out now that suggests that's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
Stanley Greenberg had a great piece recently saying that, I'm sorry, that's just not what happened. Yeah. But putting that aside, he also then sort of unprompted went into this whole thing about my progressive friends, my liberal friends. I don't know who it was he was talking about. My progressive friends want me to do stuff by executive action, and that's against the Constitution. I'm not going to do it. Like that to me is the flips, like the flip side of, first of all, it's not unconstitutional.
No.
And any more so than, Nancy Pelosi arguing back in the day that, if we impeach Donald Trump, he won't be able to be criminally prosecuted. It's not unconstitutional, but it seems to me part and parcel of the same thing where it's just like, we can work with the Republicans.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There was that story. It must have been a Bloomberg story because I didn't actually read the whole thing. But it was like, well, they got the paywall. It's a very difficult paywall. But it was like Biden is, he's going to like appoint basically an ambassador to conservatives or something. Like I don't know. It was just a very strange. Like he's going to have someone in his cabinet whose job is to reach out to conservatives. And like, I mean, we are at a point. My colleague Osita Nuevo wrote this. I think nearly the beginning of the year. Like we actually have to talk about how we are going to defeat the Republican Party, not how we are going to.
Piece. Yeah.
Like we need to actually talk about how, like, Democrats need to actually think in terms of how are we going to defeat this malignant force that is the modern Republican Party. Not and for far too long The only way they have thought about politics is how will we operate within a world in which they are dominant? You know, how will we sort of eke out our wins in a world in which Republicans are naturally in charge of things? And they just they actually reorient their thinking to like, obviously they're not governing partners, but like at this point they are a like actual threat to the stability of the country and to the democratic order, and like we need to actually politically defeat them.
Do you think it's possible for this generation of Democrats to make that turn? I mean, because I am increasingly believing that like the problem is to some extent ideological. I definitely think it's ideological, but I also think it's like so rude. Like you could pursue you could be them, pursue your ideology, and also sort of like exert a little bit more power and partisanship and still pursue your ideology. I mean, but it's almost like they're even like, I don't know, abdicating their own responsibility to carry out their own ideology. Maybe that's an easier way of doing it. Right. I mean, I think all those are valid perspectives on it, but I look at this story about Dianne Feinstein this week. Yeah. Where she, former staffers are having to leak, like she doesn't know where she is, essentially, to Jane Mayer in the New Yorker. And I go like, this is a very clear case of a generational problem.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think that like, it's definitely, I think it's separate from ideology. I think that just like you said, there is an ideological element to it. I think that there's a part of the sort of moderate democratic worldview that requires a Republican Party to work with in order to beat back the left. I think that that's a given. But like that requiring a Republican Party to exist that can be worked with, like stopped working during the Bush years, basically. During the Gingrich years, practically. Yep. And I think it is. I think it's like you have most younger liberals who aren't even that radical, like have not seen in their lifetime a Republican Party that can be quote unquote worked with. And I think that that's like totally a generational thing.
Definitely. And also, I mean, sorry, we're just seeing this with Whitmer. We talked about this on the show. And there we go. We are of one mind now. That, you don't even need to be an AOC in terms of your politics to fight Republicans on the battlefield of politics, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think one of the things that this Biden presidency, assuming it actually happens, I think one of the things I think perhaps the real story in terms of the Biden presidency from the perspective of progressives. I mean, once we get past like, okay, no Donald Trump, great. But in terms of like the dynamic that's going to play out is there's going to be a lot of these fights and arguments that are going to start at day one. In fact, they've already started in a way that they never did under the Obama administration.
I don't remember this much arguing about the cabinet.
Not even close. Yeah. There was not this type of scrutiny on transition, none of it. Yeah. That on day one, there is going to be, the Biden administration is going to be one where we get a very clear delineation between what these factions of the Democratic, that build up the Democratic Party want. We have to say goodbye to our viewers on Peacock. Again, the show plays 5 and 10 p.m. on the Peacock app, the Choice channel. We will see you folks on Monday. Thanks for joining us. And for the rest of you, specialer people, we will stay here. But I mean, don't you think that's going to be the case, Alex?
Absolutely.
That this is like, I mean, I just remember I was naive during the Bush years. Like, there were people I would have on the radio show or people who were on other shows who we were fighting George Bush tooth and nail on Social Security in 2005, right? They wanted to privatize Social Security, and there was a real concerted effort. In fact, it came out of Josh Marshall's blog at the time, where he used the blog to whip essentially, or to get a whip count of and force Congress people in their districts, Republicans for the most part, where do you stand on privatizing Social Security? And that, became the basis of a big fight and that beat back that privatization. And then years later, I'm like talking to some of these people, these, liberals. I mean, I guess, Jonathan Alter comes to mind, who guy wrote a book on FDR. Right. I mean, it's not like, and he is like, we had a conversation at the MSNBC Green studio, their green room or whatever it was. Like, he's like, I don't understand why, the left is so chaste about, cutting back on some expansion of Social Security. I'm like, what? And, to his credit, he came on the show and we had a debate about it. We had a debate about Medicare. And I think on some level, I didn't see as much of that from him. I mean, I think he was sort of cloistered and he did not promote that as much. And then, that line of thinking. And then within 3 or 4 years, 5 years from there, maybe it was like 3, you have the Senate caucus voting to expand Social Security.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's related, but I'm saying like that was the point being that there's this clarifying moment, when you come out of a conservative governance where you start to realize that, how aligned you are with people that you were fighting against the administration with. And I think that's like,
that's, yeah. And, I mean, it's like, right. To describe my own sort of naive moment, it felt, 2008 felt a lot like, like this new ascendant wing of the Democratic Party has beaten back Clintonism, right? And then, I mean, it turned out to be much less of a break than we all thought. But that's also why it felt like that wasn't, that's also why it didn't feel like it was the time for, having these arguments. But that's not like this time around. That's not like a lot of segments of the Democratic Party coalition did not get their first choice and are well aware they didn't get their first choice. And I think that like we're going to see it's going to be more acceptable to have these sort of arguments in public, and we're going to have more of them. And who, again, I don't know how productive it will be because so far the Biden administration appears to be really, really stubborn about not giving in to progressive demands on the cabinet and things like that. But I mean, there's definitely going to be more arguing about it this time around than there was in the first Obama term, I think.